Nice speaking with you today, Daniel. And today I'm looking forward to discussing with you the topic of supply chain talent and supporting the education community. My first question is, can you first provide a brief background of yourself?
Hi, Dustin. Thanks for having me here today. I'm the Vice President of Education and Workforce Development for MHI, the nonprofit trade association that serves the U.S. supply chain logistics and material handling industry. I came into this role after 20 years as a supply chain professional and a project manager, with a particular interest in training and education. Most recently, I was working at Caterpillar, which has an immense global supply chain. And it became clear that while there were many opportunities to drive improvement through processes and technology, for the whole industry, talent was a critical factor in building and sustaining supply chain improvements.
What are the pressing issues today pertaining to supply chain talent?
The simple answer is that we have a shortage of talent. We have a number of studies that back this up, and we're starting to see real problems when companies can't find and keep the supply chain talent they need. In some cases, the work just doesn't get done, and both the companies and their customers suffer. In other cases, the jobs move to places where there's a healthier supply of talent to support them. But one of the good things is that it also creates a ripe environment for innovation and new technologies. So baby boomers are retiring at a rate of about 10,000 a week, and they're taking with them the years of experience that it really takes to understand what supply chains are like in global companies. The generations coming up behind them don't have the same knowledge and experience, and there are fewer of them. So it's really leaving a void. On top of that, the participation rate for the millennials is shockingly low, meaning that they're choosing to enter the workforce later. So whatever we've been doing to recruit talent into our industry and train them, it's too small and it's too slow to meet the needs of today's companies. I really think in terms of supply chains. And so for the past few years, I've been looking at this particular challenge in terms of the supply chain for talent. It kind of makes sense, really. Companies have a certain demand for talent at any given time. There are places they go to get that talent, their suppliers, and there are forces that pull the talent out of their companies. So we could really talk about it as a talent supply chain.
How can these issues be addressed effectively?
Usually, when you're trying to wrap your head around any supply chain, at least at a strategic level, you have to start by characterizing the demand. So, if we're thinking about a talent supply chain, what kind of talent does the company really need to support the work that it's doing? Are they talking about managers or engineers, or are they looking for middle skill folks? People who have some education beyond high school, but perhaps not a college degree. Are you looking for people in the beginning of their career? Do you want people that already have experience? Once you get your head around that, then you can start to ask questions about how many of each kind of worker you need, where you're going to need them, when you're going to need them, and how much you're expecting to pay them. So that whole supply chain thinking around characterizing demand really fits in well with understanding the problem. And you need to do that demand planning step before you can start to look at supply. Because once you know what you need, then you can make smarter decisions about where you should be spending your time and money to build recruiting relationships. So once you know what you need, you can make smarter investments in suppliers, particularly in schools, where you're most likely to find candidates who meet your needs. And if you can't find the suppliers you need, well, then you've found a gap. You may need to look for other options, such as starting your own training program, but at least you can diagnose the issue and start working on the real problem rather than wasting time looking for candidates that don't exist.
Where have you seen success?
The companies where I'm seeing the best results are the ones that are really connecting the dots between talent and profitability. So that's what it takes at the company level. Usually there's some kind of a crisis. Either a bunch of supply chain people leave at the same time, or the company creates some critical new positions and then can't fill them. That's when they get religion and start finding ways to host events, provide scholarships, serve on advisory boards, and really do things that raise their profile, build better relationships, and promote their employment brand. But the key is to sustain this commitment, because talent is a supply chain, and it has a really long lead time, and it requires a long-term commitment to the relationships with your suppliers. So once leaders make the shift from thinking about the talent crisis as a touchy-feely HR issue or as a sort of a short-term transactional problem, and they start to see it as a serious risk to the long-term survival of their business, at that point it suddenly becomes much easier to justify the investments in recruiting, development, and retention. But the truth is, while companies can do some things to reduce the impact of the supply chain talent crisis on their own businesses, we're still facing a major deficit as an industry. And that's really where organizations like MHI and others can play a role. We can bring together the collective resources of our members to raise the profile of the whole industry, making it more attractive to candidates and ensuring that they have access to high-quality training and education. I'll give you an example. MHI sponsors a group of mostly engineering professors called KICME, the College Industry Council for Material Handling Education. KICME promotes supply chain technology education at the university level through case competitions and other activities. MHI also has a career and technical education program that supports high schools and community colleges that offer classes to ensure students have both the technical and the professional skills to enter the supply chain workforce as soon as they graduate. And one of the coolest things that MHI does is a program called Student Days that we sponsor during our trade shows. So our trade shows are the largest gatherings of supply chain professionals in the United States. The shows start on Monday and they go through Thursday. We'll have over 800 exhibitors, and depending on the show, 25 to 40,000 attendees. But on the Wednesday of the show, we invite about 250 students in for a very special program. And we turn the whole show floor into a classroom. The students get taken on guided tours. They get a special program of speakers. They really get first-class treatment. And it's all as a way of making the industry attractive to young people and helping to ensure that they get an opportunity to see it up close and personal. Dustin, I want to say thanks for having me. These issues around supply chain talent really are serious, and it's something we all need to be working on together. Every little bit helps, and I really appreciate having the chance to connect with your audience. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing.